I like to talk about education, and in order to transform a young medical officer into an expert neurosurgeon, several things have to happen in the way. First of all is education and training, and this is a very important issue, as this is going to be crucial for the development of this man who is going to become an expert. Also, you have to take advantage of the experience that you gain during these years of your training and further, but also is so important your attitude, your commitment, your work, your objectives and targets, getting them closer readily, clearly showing that attitude will improve your chance of success. Doesn't matter if you enter a great program of training, if your attitude at your work is not ideal, then you will not succeed as much as you should do. So basically, the residency program for me is the most important. Up to 80% of what you learn during your medical career, you will be learning, or you do during your medical career, you probably will learn it during your residency program. You become specialized after 5 to 7 years, depending on the country, and follow that you enter a fellow program or fellowship, because you know what you want to dedicate, you want to sub-specialize, and you follow with congresses and meetings to keep up with your education and training. But for this to be able to happen or to occur, we must count with the politics. The politicians must guarantee equal chances of treatment for all patients or citizens. And how can they do that? They can start doing this by guaranteeing a similar training for all residents. They can also help out to distribute equally in number of population catchment area on the neurosurgical centers or the spinal centers. And they can also guarantee the number or the amount of technology every center has. So we have that, as this balance is no good. It's not the same to treat a patient with a brain tumor, say in Sao Paulo, probably, than one in Manaus. Maybe I have that wrong, but one would have thought that Sao Paulo is much better equipped. And as far as I'm concerned, these two people pay the same taxes to the government, so they should have exactly the same treatment. This doesn't happen. But politics not only have to guarantee this, but they also have to guarantee annual auditing in all centers for both training and clinical results. So to know where we're going, we need to know where we come from. And I think there's been over 100 years now with neurosurgery going on, and we know that at the beginning, surgeons like Victor Horsley operated without anesthesia or with ether, or without anticoagulation and so on. So they have a lot of merit, and we owe them to carry on the search for better training and better results. This came along with surgery mastership, and the operating room, and this is, I'm talking about the 60s and 70s, where the operating room served as an educational laboratory to develop experience in technical skills. Of course, there were some visionaries at that time, like Yasargil, that in 1960s, early that, in those days, he created the first surgical labs, which would allow people to train with cadavers before doing training with human beings. So I was trained in London, and my trainers, remember, they've been trained with a see one, do one, and teach one philosophy, which obviously this philosophy would not be acceptable in current day. And of course, at that time, survival was the paradigm. So you could take a tumor, and if the patient was rendered with disability, that's what was secondary. The big thing was that you managed to take that tumor out without killing the patient. This also has changed. This led to mentorship in schools, and that was not politician-driven. That was institution-driven. So one institution checked one guy, one master, and decided this guy should be taking neurosurgery, spine surgery. This guy was allowed to have everything. He had to have charisma, and he has to be working more than the others. So he had to make example. He standardized techniques. He standardized management plans, helping to make a process with honest and correct decisions. And these scholars competed amongst themselves. That improved the innovation in other centers, and that kept going the neurosurgery, or particularly spine surgery, for the decades to come. So what we did learn from the masters, we learned from the masters that a good surgeon knows how to operate, and this is a matter of skill. A better surgeon knows when to operate, and this is a matter of knowledge. And even a better surgeon knows when not to operate, and this is a matter, of course, of experience. And I like to quote my friend and former trainer, Henry Marsh, on his book. I recommend you read it, Do Not Harm, where he emphasized that you need to look to your results, you need to visit your own cemetery, you should not repeat the same mistake, particularly when the results of these mistakes can lead to severe disability or even death. So you have to analyze objectively your results, and when you talk about training to your residents, you not only are teaching them how to operate or when not to operate, you are also teaching them to be self-critic with their analysis, and they have to be very honest with their evaluations. So ongoing training, updating, well, you need to embrace new techniques, and sometimes for people on 50s or 60s, it's difficult at the end of their career. You need to embrace hands-on courses, which are the new developed tools to improve training. You need to attend meetings and so forth. Just to mention, for me, it's been easy to embrace endoscopy for craniocervical junction, as I've been doing trained with endoscopy, but people who were doing, as in the left-hand side, transoral resections, to get them to use endoscopy is a nightmare. So these people will keep to the techniques, and with difficulty will embrace new developments. For me, hands-on courses have been a crucial changeover in training, and this is because you can now match in a cadaver work setup the real operation that you can have with a living patient. You can use the same microscopes, you can use you can use robotics, you can use aero techniques, third degree microscopes, robot microscopes, tubular techniques, everything. You can mimic exactly the same operation that you're going to perform later on a living patient, and that gives you a lot of knowledge on anatomy, on what difficulties you may encounter, just putting the materials in the table. So going to what do we do in the ANS. ANS have been doing courses for 50 years. We started with one course which included 4 cycles, and the 4 cycles were spine, head injury and functional, vascular, and oncology. And this started with 50 residents throughout Europe. This kept increasing until 200 when we decided that 200 were the most number of trainees we could take in a course. So that made us do 2 other cycles, and for the last 5 years we had 2 cycles, and for the last year, starting this year, we have a 3rd cycle going on. So we are training over 700 trainees from around Europe. So this is a standardization of training, and we are so impressed with the hands-on courses that from this year on we have incorporated hands-on courses for basic spine and basic cranial, advanced spine, advanced cranial, vascular, skull base, and craniocervical independent courses too. And these are well attended. Let's talk about spine surgery a little bit. The difficulty with the spine surgery is that this specialty is done, or this pathology is done by 2 different specialties, neurosurgery and orthopedics. So there are 2 different curriculums, 2 different training programs, 2 different worlds, 2 different ways of seeing things, and sometimes limits you what you can do. Traditionally, we know that neurospine had dedicated the intracanal, as we saw in the previous lectures, and traditionally orthopedic took care of deformity and scoliosis. My view, and I think it will be all the views, is that you dedicate yourself to spine, you should master all spine. And I'm not saying you should be doing everything, but the team of a spine section combined with 4 or 5 people, all of them should be incorporating all pathology for the spine. This is where spine surgery is at the European scientific specialties, and it's a multidisciplinary joint committee, and I hope this in the shorter term will become an independent specialty. We will see it, I think we'll live to see it, personally. So spine in the 21st century. these are challenges. We have increasing number of surgeries. We have better medication, so we can operate in elderly patients that before we didn't. We have incorporated MIS technology, which makes us a small incision operations, and we can do those in patients even with local anesthesia. Patients that would not withhold a general anesthesia now can be operated. We can treat conditions now that we couldn't do before, as you can see here. But also this has increased tremendously the cost for the NHS. And you can see there in red, you can see how the average price have gone from 24,000 to 100,000. That means we are doing more complex and more longer spine fusions. And these are, of course, data from the US. So for me, cooperation is much better than competition. And for me to be in spine surgery, sometimes we have conflicts with orthopedics. We decide one thing and the other ones decide the other. So I have created with the orthopedic team in my hospital in Barcelona, for the first time in Spain, and I believe it's in Europe, a full dedicated spine surgery center with orthopedics and neurosurgeons involved. And these are the results we did before we were united, and these are the results we do now that we've been for 2 years as a single unit. And we not only improved in our complication rate by 30%, but we increased by 2 points complexity index of the procedures, and we have performed 30% more cases on this joint venture. So I think in my hands, or in our experience, it's a win-win situation, this project or initiative. Of course, this allows us to perform a single training program for the residents, which is another point which I wanted to make sure. So how do we embrace the challenges of embracing new technology? Well, we have surgical approaches, new technology like MIS, but we also have a high demanding society which they expect to come better than when they went into theater. And now this is also aggravated by social media, which they look at all the results of the publications, surgeons, and this is becoming a little bit of business medicine, which I personally against it, but I think this is the way, and in 20 years this will be definitely the way to go. Of course, as I mentioned before, difficulty for elder or not as younger neurosurgeons or spinal surgeons to start changing their practice, as we have a huge evolution of technology coming our way. So what are the educational targets? Well, standardized training, standardized care, which will improve the results and will make everyone better. So why don't we start with training? I think training, as I mentioned before, accounts for 80% of what you're going to be doing during your career, and I think it's the most important time of your surgical career. What are the problems now? Well, we have inconsistent resident education curriculum. We have training methods that fail to adopt advanced information technology. We still are dominating by pen and paper training competencies, evaluation, and I think it's time to go digital. Sharing the knowledge and experience to accelerate learning. So we are now entering a new era, and we are creating an IT platform to try and help this most crucial part of training in our lives. So we will standardize training curriculum in compliance with educational board guidelines. We can digitalize the competence evaluation to streamline the review that manage the resident advancement. Use high quality video content to teach the patient, the residents. Also secure instant messaging features to more efficient communication between them and the trainees and trainers. Build in self-assessment tools along with group teaching features and reporting and comparative data analysis out of the brink of the fingers. So the value for the ecosystem, for the healthcare system, we are standardizing residents' training programs. We allow better management and information, and we will improve eventually patient care by improving the residents' training. For the teaching hospitals, we have a better management of resident training programs. We will also digitalize records and competitive analysis. For the tutors, we'll have a streamlined resident education and reporting, and also an online mobile technology available platform. And for the residents, of course, improved learning and self-assessment. Welcome to the 21st century of digitalized. So what do we have postgraduately? We have education spine programs. And in Europe, we have the ENS, Eurospine, and AOSpine. And ENS, apart from the training, the normal cycle for spine that happens on the training courses, we have advanced postgraduate courses. We have 2 parts, and you run these in 2 years. One basically is to extend indications and advanced operative techniques, and these are a high advanced course. And the second one is to complications and management and avoidance. These courses are very highly attended, and now we are mixing with Eurospine and AOSpine teaching educational programs, and we think we are making a unique program which get the best of all of them. Eurospine has a bit more complex educational program. It's based on modules, and you can attend the module you want. You can go 1 year to one module, so you don't miss on the modules. And they are always exactly the same. So once you get all these modules, you can acquire a diploma, and this is the basic Eurospine diploma, but also you can advance to a more advanced diploma in Eurospine following another set of modules which are only running every 3 years at the moment. But Eurospine has got much more people and much more ways of organizing themselves, as they have a huge budget, and they can spend some of this budget with fundraising for all these things that, unfortunately, ENS cannot do. And finally, AOSpine. We all know AOSpine training programs, which are brilliant. I've been in Davos myself twice, and I was impressed by the way they teach. It's much more discussion type with round tables, and ENS has acquired some of these techniques to use in their own congresses. So I think, to be honest, if we get all educational programs to work together and build a program which everyone is happy with, and once we've created this program amongst Eurospine, AOSpine, ENS spine section, we can get all the presidents of the flank, of the ENS, of Eurospine, and get to talk to the politicians and tell them, listen guys, we want this program to be a standard for all spine surgeons. So if we can achieve that, excellent training becomes law. And finally, as Marcus was saying, one of our projects in the ENS is to transcribe these frontiers and try and cooperate with sister continental societies. As I said before, ENS has over 50 years of experience, and we intend to improve or to import our courses to the flank initially. Marcus has always shown a great disposition or predisposition for this, and we will be starting these courses hopefully this year, maybe next year. That will allow us a standardized training amongst our residents, which will imply a standardized care, which is what we aim as doctors. If we can import this satisfactorily to the flank, we can then dream on doing this to the US, to Africa, to the Asian Pacific, and of course we need to run examinations after every 4 cycles to teach the training individually. And I like to end up, I like American football, and as we have 2 Wisconsin doctors with us today, I like to use the words of Vince Lombardi, who was a great American footballer who created or who invented or who was president to the Green Bay Packers, who said, perfection might be unreachable, but if we pursue perfection, we might obtain excellence. So I don't think we will be able to get what we want, but if we aim towards that, we will certainly get a better deal than we have now. Thank you very much. Obrigado.